So first up, we have Trym. You are joining us. Thank you, Trym, for being here. Now, you're taking us through this experience of leveraging Hydra in a new way that is not an application specific. So this one's quite interesting. Everyone says that Hydra solves everything. Does it really? I'm yet to see it, but maybe you can show us exactly how it all works. So I'll start your timer. You've got 5 minutes to go through your pitch, and then we have the QA session afterwards. So Trym, take it away.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. And, thank you for having me on board. So, as you say, a lot of people say, Hydra can fix this. Hydra can mow my lawn. It can do my taxes. It can do everything. Other people, on the other hand, do the exact opposite approach, right? They look at Hydra and they see some of these restrictions, some of these shortcomings and sort of designs that are kind of maybe not fitting exactly what kind of solution that they would want for their application. So, as you touched on, the proposal that I'm coming up with is not an application specific solution, but more a sector solution. So, for example, if you take DeFi on Cardano at the moment, it is in a bit of a state. It's doing great. It's performing well, but there are some issues. The fees are a bit high. People don't like the batchers. There's certain things that you simply cannot do, like features that the DEXs and the lending protocols and other protocols would like to provide to the community, that they're just not able to on the current mainnet design. Which is it's fine. We're sort of figuring out how this whole ecosystem works, but a lot of these issues and shortcomings that people are experiencing with the DeFi ecosystem on Cardano at the moment, I do believe can be solved with a solution like Hydra. So basically, my Catalyst proposal is for a research into a specific design pattern for a way to use Hydra as a communication protocol between protocols. So a way for DEXs and lending platforms and oracles and traders to talk to each other, kind of like a business-to-business relation, as you would call it in the traditional world, but this would be a more sort of protocol-to-protocol type of interaction. And this has a couple of really good benefits. So one of them is you can get rid of a lot of the batchers, a lot of the transaction costs, a lot of these extra fees that we're experiencing right now on the mainnet. It will probably, based on some benchmarks that we have done, based on the design pattern that I'm exploring, it seems to be much more performant. So you'll be able to have a much higher TPS, you'll have more transactions going through. And the way that Hydra works is it's kind of like a mini blockchain with a consensus mechanism where everyone sort of has to agree on each transaction. So what this means is you can also change the rules of this ledger. So one shortcoming that I know some of the projects that have launched on Cardano have run into is memory restrictions, for example, or computational complexity restrictions with scripts and smart contracts. They're trying to make something that is too big, and they cannot deliver this feature or this product or whatever it is because of these restrictions that has to do with the ledger. So one of these is, each UTXO has to have at least 2 ADA attached to it. So when it comes to big airdrops, when it comes to certain things like automatic yield farming, the rewards just accumulate and then it gets sort of reabsorbed into your position and sort of accumulating over time. These kinds of things are kind of hard to deal with and implement in the current system on mainnet. A solution like the one I'm proposing, where you use Hydra for some of these things, you can make the changes that are required to deliver a lot of these features. So some of the features that seem very promising as possibilities based on the current Hydra design are things like flash loans. Much more efficient arbitrage, no or low fees, getting rid of the batchers, and a lot of really good new features to be added to the DeFi ecosystem. And also, maybe not everyone knows, but the lending platforms at the moment, they are in a bit of an exposed situation where if there's too much traffic and liquidations can't get through in time, it does put the protocol and the depositors at a certain type of risk under some conditions. And a system like Hydra that has a much higher throughput and performance, along with these other features like the flash loans and much more efficient arbitrage and stuff, will provide security benefits for a protocol like this. So the proposal that I actually have in Catalyst is for researching the solution. I have this idea. I want to see, okay, when the rubber hit the road, and when you sort of really dig into this, when you get into the weeds and sort of uncover everything, does this thing work? Because I want to see if this can work. If it actually can work, then I think it's a really, really good platform for all of these different protocols to come together and collaborate on, what will essentially be a DeFi head for Hydra. So you can imagine, I have this drawing tablet with me. You'll see it on the screen. So you can imagine if you have these verticals. So you have a couple of dexes. These can be different kinds of protocols. Your MinSwap, your Wi-Fi, your Sunday. I'm not claiming affiliation with any of these projects or anything like this. I'm just using them as examples. You can have these protocols wanting to contribute to something like this, along with different lending protocols, along with oracles are going to be required for something like this to work. So all of these protocols, come together, and they want to create some sort of DeFi ecosystem that is much more, has all of these benefits that is possible with this type of approach. So basically what this would do is the research that I want to commit to, like if you ask any individual of these projects to commit to this type of research, it's a very big ask for any individual project, which is why I'm actually applying for Catalyst funding, because I think this is a type of solution that can really benefit all of these protocols equally, without discrimination. So it benefits all DEXs equally if they want to commit to this. It benefits all lending platforms equally if they want to commit to this, all oracles equally. So that's why I think Catalyst is a really good place to apply for funding for this. And if they want to commit to this, after the research is done, we have basically a proof of concept that yes, this works, and they're able to commit to this. Sorry, I realized that I've gone a little bit over time.
I always thought Hydra was from like a peer, almost like a peer-to-peer or node-to-node situation. So it's transferring transactions from one to another. So I personally am trying to conceptualize how this opens it up to all the DeFi platforms and the actual users itself. So can you explain a little bit about that and how that works? From how does it go from any user to the platforms?
Absolutely. So what you're describing there is what we call a B2C or business to customer relation, right? You as a customer come in, you want to go to a DEX, you want to do a swap, right? That's what we want to do. So the way that this would work in that case would be that the DEX has a node running, which means that they are a participant in the Hydra head. And as a customer, you're going into the DEX's website, you're going to the DApp, they have, maybe a separate page or whatever sort of interface they choose to present you with to allow you to interact with this. So what you would do in practice would be something like this. So you as a user take your assets and you put it into a deposit contract on the mainnet. So this is, the actual blockchain. So once it's proven that yes, the assets are actually deposited in here, then you're able to perform things within the head. So this is just an example of one of the design patterns that I would want to research. Right, I have a couple of ideas of how to implement this. I want to see, okay, which ones, what are the different trade-offs, and this is just one example of how this could work. So you deposit something on main chain, you get the confirmation that the deposit is made, And then you're able to do the swap inside the Hydra head. So when you're doing that, what you're actually doing is you are interacting with the front end of the DEX. They are verifying your intent, through wallet authentication, through signing, transactions, but without paying anything. So that's where the cryptographic fundamentals of blockchain really help out with this. Yeah, they can verify that this is an authentic request. Then that project passes on that request inside the head with the authentication. It's verified by all the other participants in the head. So, by the other DEXs, by the lending platforms, and by the Oracle, crucially. And then whatever action you wanted to do is performed inside the head. After that, after all of this has gone inside, so this would be inside the Hydra head. So lots of stuff goes on in here. And then at some point later, you would want to withdraw something, right? Because you don't want to leave the assets inside the head. You don't want to deposit something and not get something back, especially in just the case of a simple swap. For more complex things, this is more attractive, but for just a simple swap, you would do this deposit, do all the swaps and things that need to go on inside the head, and then you would do a withdrawal afterwards, which is confirmed by the Oracle, which is already present inside the Hydra head. So, that is just an example of how a business-to-customer relation, like your interaction with the system, would look at as a regular user.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that. And you said you have a couple of different models that you're exploring as well?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So the purpose of this is a 6-month commitment. I'm going to be researching and basically trying to figure out what is the best design pattern for this kind of solution, and publishing a white paper based on that. So, laying out all the different options, pros and cons, performance testings, benchmarks, security testing, all of these things that need to go into a system like this. Put all of that in a white paper and publish it for everyone to sort of see and commit to. So that is one of the 3 deliverables that is part of the Catalyst proposal.
Great. And you said a 6-month timeline for this research?
Yes, exactly. So
okay,
it's been,
cool. Right.
It's something that I've been working on already for a while. I have, as you understand, a lot of ideas. A lot of this is formalizing it, testing it, putting it all sort of in a structured context, and collaborating with, relevant parties and everything. And I think for a white paper, it's a pretty realistic timeline.
And how much funding are you asking for this one?
So the funding is based on, it was based on the price of ADA at the time of submission. I believe it's 274,000 ADA. Most of that is to sustain basically a reasonable but competitive rate for committing to this full time for half a year. There's a little bit of discretionary spending, which is consulting with other experts, for example, DEXs, market makers, talking with these people if they need to charge something, that I think that's only fair, and that along with the infrastructure cost and some other things will go under the discretionary spending fund.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for that. If our audience or if our panelists do have any questions, please chime in as well. That pretty much goes through all of my questions here. Probably just one last one. How confident are you with these particular ideas that something will be able to be used by the community or even yourself?
Excellent question. I'm very confident, but I've also, it's not just me. I've worked with, the Hydra team themselves pretty closely for a number of months. I've also, basically talk to everyone in the space that I can get a hold of. People working actively on DEX development, on lending platform development, on every engineer I can talk to. People within the ecosystem, outside the ecosystem, legal, like all manner of things. Like I've talked to them basically, and all the feedback I've gotten so far has been very positive. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed success, but I take that as a confirmation of the thing that I'm pretty confident that this is absolutely a viable direction, and that it's a research proposal. So the purpose of the research is to verify that, yes, my hunch here is correct.
Well, Trym, thank you so much for that. It pretty much takes us to time anyway, so that's a really good point to stop. So thank you, Trym. I'll put all the links to everything in the show notes down below, so if anyone's interested in learning a little bit more about Trym's proposal, you can find it there and put it to your voting list so you can have another one on your checklist that you could potentially vote for.
If you have any questions about this, about anything else sort of related to this, I'm also involved with a couple of other things, the Cardano improvement proposal, among other things. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm always available. And let's talk.